Welcome to the Captivating Women podcast. We are a podcast that is dedicated to empowering women to become their best selves. We believe that when women lift each other up, amazing things happen. Mm-hmm. This is a show that's going to seek to celebrate strength, resilience, and the brilliance that exists within every woman. As we navigate the complexities of life, one thing we girls have learned is that if we go together, oftentimes we go farther. Mm-hmm. We want to talk about careers. We want to delve into relationships and personal growth. We want to share our journey with you, and we want you to share your journey with us. So don't hesitate to drop into the comments, to leave your feedback, because we will be reading. Our objective here, guys, is to motivate, uplift, and give practical advice and to listen so that as a community, we can grow together.
Yeah.
My name is April. My patients love to call me Dr. B. I am a restorative and cosmetic dentist practicing here in Southern California, and I am excited about what's about to take place.
Thank you. I'm Keisha. I am a psychologist, a marriage and family therapist, and I work at a school district with children and helping them with behavioral skills and mental health skills and linking our family to services. I'm really excited to share my journey and experiences with you, and I look forward to having this unfold.
Yes.
My name is Takira. You can call me Kira for short, and I am an IT project manager by trade. Currently, I manage a team of project managers and for a large health system here in Southern California. Mm-hmm. A lot of times people ask me, what exactly is project management? Girl, what is that? So hard to explain to my family.
Ask all the time.
Right. It's so hard to explain to my family and friends, but an analogy is think of an orchestra and a conductor that is guiding the orchestra. Yeah. That's essentially what a project manager does. They pull all of the key pieces together to deliver an expected result. And I'm super excited to be here to share my experiences with you. And I hope to hear back from you as well. So welcome. Glad you joined us today.
So glad, guys. So we're going to jump right into it. Let's get into what we are talking about today. The title of today's episode is Career Confidence, Own Your Space. Mm-hmm. And basically, guys, we're jumping in. We're delving into the topic of imposter syndrome. Mm-hmm. So I just want to start off. What is imposter syndrome? Well, I looked up a technical definition for it, and that's what I'm going to read for you today. And it basically says imposter syndrome is a psychological pattern characterized by persistent feelings of self-doubt, insecurity, and the belief that one is not as competent as others perceive them to be. Mm-hmm. Those experiencing it fear being exposed as a fraud, despite evidence of their accomplishment. I think it's worth noting that there was a study that was done in 2022, and basically it found that 82% of professionals reported experiencing imposter syndrome.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. In 2023, a survey was completed, and it indicated that 80% of women and 66% of men reported experiencing imposter syndrome. And lastly, in 2022, a study was done on minorities, and it revealed that 41% of Black professionals and 35% of Hispanic professionals reported feeling like imposters due to societal and structural pressures.
Right.
So my question is, delving into this, why do we experience imposter syndrome?
Right. That's so interesting. Like when you were reading off a lot of those statistics, the thing that came to my mind was that the people that feel it the most are the ones that have the qualifications. Yeah. So you're literally have what it takes to perform whatever it is in whatever space that you're at, but you are doubting yourself.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Some of the things I also saw, which I could relate to, is depending on cultural. I know cultural, there's differences, but in some of our families, especially, our African American families, Caribbean families, that's what I have come from. Yeah. They tend to normalize excellence. You know what I mean? Which is good to a certain extent, but after a while, your baseline for what your expectation is of someone, not knowing their maximum load, not knowing what it takes for them to maintain, you know, and you start to expect a certain level of performance. Then that can distort your view of reality of how you're showing up in the world. You know,
100%.
That was a very good,
100%. I think it's funny that it said about 77%. I'm almost wondering if it's even higher because I feel like imposter syndrome is not necessarily like a destination, but it can happen at any point. So I feel like if people are truly honest with themselves, right? Everybody has experienced it in some point or another, like in some portion of their journey, right? Because I think imposter syndrome to me is really just, it's like this nagging feeling that I feel when something is just new, right? And so it's like something that I might very well be qualified to do, but because I'm in a new role or a new space, I feel a little bit of insecurity there, right? Because especially like when I, like say you go into a new job, it's always, I feel like happens to me where I feel like I probably oversold myself in an interview, right?
Don't we all?
Right. So I'm like, you're coming into that interview,
hire me.
right? You come into that interview, right? And then you're like really selling yourself and saying all your accomplishments. But then for me, it's like, okay, after I get the job, I'm like, ooh, I need to be a little bit humble, a little bit. I need to, you know, learn the ropes and stuff.
And then you have to like take a lay of the land. You got to know who's who, you know, who to stay away from, who to gravitate towards. And then on top of that, your job skills.
Yes.
And then whatever skills that you told the truth or lied about or oversold yourself, you know,
Keeping it
bring it
100.
to the table. You know what I mean? Everything that you said you were going to do.
You got to act on it.
We need you to act on it right now.
Exactly. So I feel like people are holding you to that. So I would say for me, that's the space that I've felt it the most. And I feel like with each new role, it can come up.
But can we also be honest too? How much of it is really like imposter syndrome, and then part of it is like, I don't really want to be doing this anyway. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? I mean, I like work to an extent.
Yeah.
You know. But it is a little bit of like a suit that I got to put on to be in that mindset, to be in that, to perform in that environment that I cannot wait to take off as soon as I hit the parking lot to go home.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I like clocking out of that.
Agreed.
But it is also something that I do have to perform to a certain extent.
Yeah. And I would say too, people like me, I'll just put it on myself, who are perfectionists by nature, which I am really trying hard to shed.
Right.
It's like this unrealistic expectation that you put on yourself.
I agree.
To perform at a certain way. And what I noticed for me personally is other people around me would feel like, oh, you're doing so well. You know, you're excelling here. But because I had an unrealistic expectation of what that achievement should look like, there were plenty of times where I felt like an imposter. Like it's still, because there was like one mistake. I still didn't feel like, you know, I felt like I belonged there, but I felt like, you know.
I think that's a biggie.
Yeah.
Perfectionism. I too struggle
it's a
from
criteria,
that.
though. That's what I was going back to. It's a criteria for imposter syndrome because like I said, the families that you're coming from are not really letting you know how you're doing when you are excelling. And so that you're tending to like move the goalposts on yourself, you know?
I agree. I also think we live in a comparative culture.
Oh, yeah.
And I think when we look at what we see on social media, what we see floating out there, we have more access to information than we ever have.
Absolutely.
And so now I'm basing my value based on what someone else may be doing. And to be honest with you, that can definitely impact how we move in the workplace. And sometimes I think unbeknownst to ourselves.
Sometimes it's not bad though. Sometimes you do need to see a mirror of
where you should be, huh?
No, I'm not trying to be. You know what I mean? When you kind of think of like survival of the fittest, like what things are really excelling you, especially when we're talking about career. Am I putting a lot of pressure on ourselves again? Like I'm going back and forth because I'm thinking like career-wise, I do want to see people that are kind of excelling to a certain extent. I just don't want to see burnout. You know, I want to see a good balance. I want to be motivated. Because clearly that's what it's taken for you to get to certain levels that I would aspire to be at as well.
Right.
You know? and then kind of extinguish the behaviors that are not necessary, you know?
As long as it doesn't trigger you into paralysis.
Right.
And I think
Yeah.
oftentimes that's
Or
what you
jealousy.
see, or jealousy
Or
with
jealousy.
imposter
Yeah.
syndrome. You can look at someone else and then all of a
Right.
sudden now I don't feel
You made up a whole
as
thing
good
about their
enough,
life
as
Yeah.
that you have
qualified,
no
that you
idea.
have no idea.
You have no idea what's going on.
So I think it's a delicate balance
delicate
because
balance.
social media, obviously, there's some good to it, but there's also
Right.
some bad. So I feel like you have to know as yourself, like, where do I draw the line?
Mhm.
Because it can lead to that comparison.
Mhm.
The other thing I was going to say too is I think that some other cases where you might experience imposter syndrome is like certain male dominated
Right.
fields,
Yeah.
right?
Woo.
When you go into certain corporate environments, there's a certain look and
Yeah.
feel
That's true.
that the average person may look like.
Yeah.
And especially as Black women,
Right.
being in some of those fields, you almost feel like, you have to overperform, right?
I mean,
and
we
so,
do.
I mean, we
We
kind of
do.
do, right?
Right.
Right.
We
I was
all
trying to say it
we
like
do.
that.
Listen,
But you're right.
I
We
do have
to.
a motto at work, and I tell some of my coworkers, flashes of greatness, right?
Mhm.
Like,
Mhm.
don't, I know this might sound bad, but don't be so quick to solve every problem and be at the
Yeah,
forefront of
that's right. I
every
agree with that.
situation, because then that becomes the expectation and the norm.
Oh.
And then it allows
Mhm.
your colleagues to underperform because they expect you to do it,
Mhm.
or then they lack the motivation to do it themselves. And
Oh,
you
yeah.
know,
I think we've all seen that. play out
right,
before.
right. And then it becomes more frustrating for you. It's like, well, just because I can do it,
Mhm.
and I hold myself to a certain standard that I will do it,
Right.
doesn't mean
Yeah.
that I always want to. You
Or
know,
that it's my job.
that it's my job.
Oh my
right?
God.
Yes,
Well,
yeah.
because then you take pride in your work at a certain
Yeah.
extent. And you don't want it to affect, like, in my
Mhm.
case, the clients, or like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because
Mhm.
it's like, okay, we have a duty to at least try to perform for the company here.
Yeah.
Like, we're not trying to just
No, that's
Right.
true.
You know?
Then it shouldn't all fall on one person.
right.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So yeah, I would say that just the having to have overperform and stuff
Right.
like that. And then I think for me, almost thinking, okay, what are they thinking about me too? And I think sometimes that paralysis can come when you're so into your thoughts and what you think other people are thinking.
Mhm.
So it's almost like taking a step back and shifting away from it and
Right.
silencing that inner critic
Right.
Mhm.
so that you're not hearing the negative noise.
Right.
Mm.
Right.
Mhm.
You know?
Right. Having a good balance
Mm-hmm.
of just life and you in general, of what it takes for you to be you,
Mhm.
knowing
Yep.
your load
Mhm.
in certain things and getting fed, so that you're not having these unrealistic expectations of yourself
Mm-hmm.
in certain environments.
And realizing the success that you have accomplished. I think
Right. Oh, yeah.
oftentimes it's very easy in the immediate situation to kind of forget what you have
Mhm.
accomplished.
A reality.
And I've
Mhm.
never been one, to be honest with you, to post degrees and stuff on the
Mhm.
wall.
Right.
But I do think it serves as a purpose
A higher
sometimes,
purpose, it does.
in reminding you that, hey, I had what it took
right.
to attain
Yes.
this.
Mm-hmm.
Let me put on. I remember in the beginning of my career,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
there were certain procedures that I had learned and that
Yeah.
I knew I had to do,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah.
you still felt like, I'm going out here on
Yeah.
my own. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
And you almost had to kind of put on, like Keish was talking about, that
Yeah.
coat and go out
For
there
real,
and do it.
Who else is
Yeah.
gonna do it?
Right.
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 What you gotta do? Just not do
Just
it.
not do it.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
it's reminding yourself who you are,
Right.
whose you are, where
Yeah.
you come from, and going out there and dominating.
Yeah.
Right.
Not
And
letting it
I would
hinder you.
say too, like, when I think about imposter syndrome as well, it's like, again, that newness,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So I almost feel like anybody who's doing something new, like, we're always constantly on a growth path.
Mhm.
Right. Hopefully.
Hopefully,
Mhm.
right? You're
Yeah.
continuing to grow. You're
Yeah.
continuing to go into new spaces. I think that will continue to
Mhm.
be a thing,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah. And I think it's healthy to have a certain level of maybe anxiety is a strong word, but a certain level of, like, respect for what you're doing,
Yeah.
where you're in that area of
Yes.
Mhm.
questioning,
Uh-huh. It's like
because
no
it,
angst, but
Discomfort.
yeah, because it
Discomfort,
just opens up your mind into, okay, you're still a student. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
you still are accountable to a bigger system at play here.
Right.
Leaving space for God to actually come in and move
Yes.
in these certain spaces. You don't know it all.
That's that's such a
You
good
don't.
point.
Mhm.
Yes.
So, but does that make you an imposter?
No, I
Yeah.
I think imposter is like you're feeling like one, but
Right.
a lot of times you belong there. You were
Right.
given that seat at the table for a reason, and other people are seeing some value that you
Right.
provide that you may not see yourself completely.
I think imposter
Yeah.
moves into not just feeling. I think oftentimes it moves into the paralysis aspect where
Yeah.
it prevents you from actually
Yep.
moving forward. You're moving into the
Right.
people pleasing lane. You're moving into the paralysis. You're not able actually to execute if you let it take control.
Yeah.
But if you remind yourself, hey, it's
Yeah.
a moment.
It is
Yes.
a moment.
It will pass.
And it also reminds you of the power of words, because these labels are very strong.
They are.
Because like I said, it's normal to have some sort of, anxiety towards certain tasks because it humbles
Yeah.
you into like
Right.
focusing into it.
Right.
But does that make you an imposter of the situation?
No.
You know what I mean?
No.
And then you kind of
Yeah.
brainwash yourself into being into
You do.
that,
Mhm.
belief system.
Right.
That's so interesting.
I think that you have to kind of shift your mindset into knowing, like, if I'm coming into this new space or new role,
Right.
which where it frequently comes up,
Yeah.
being a learner, right? Like kind
Yeah.
of like when you said, there's a certain
Yeah.
level of humility. It doesn't doesn't defeat the purpose that
Right.
you actually do bring something meaningful.
Right.
But it's like, okay, there may be something that I can learn and gain
Right.
from this too. So let me adopt a mindset of
Yeah.
I'm a learner in this space, but I'm also bringing something
Yeah.
good to the table.
Yeah.
And I'm not an imposter because of it.
Right.
And to tell you the truth, though, those are some of the qualities that I might not have been able to like articulate, but I really like in other people that I aspire to be like in certain spaces, is that they do have a certain humility in life in general, but towards their craft or towards
Yeah.
their space. Like,
Right.
they still have this, innocence and appreciation for it. you know?
Right.
Not above learning.
Right.
No,
Not
you don't
above
know it all.
growing.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's very important.
Yeah. And I think that also ties into, again, like just having that seat at the table when you feel new and you're feeling like an imposter, but recognizing again what you bring to the table.
Yeah.
There is nobody else that is like you. There is nobody else who has your life experiences. There's nobody else that's going to bring
Right.
the uniqueness that you bring. So it's like recognizing that too.
Right.
It's like, I have a lot that I could probably learn. I might be
Right.
feeling this, but I was invited to this seat, this
Yeah.
table,
No.
right? For a reason.
Yeah.
I have
And-
a story. I have a story.
Yeah,
I want to
tell
share
us.
it. So listen, I'm going to talk a lot about school and things of that nature, just because it was
Yeah.
an impactful period of
Of
my
course.
life.
I mean, it was a big portion, a big expensive
Right.
portion.
Expensive portion. But listen, I was literally, I had gotten an interview at several institutions, right? But I was interviewing specifically at Tufts. And I was around a table of young people who were also interview candidates. And while I was there, it was about 10 of us, and everyone was saying where they were from. And so they were saying, I'm from Harvard. One of them said, I'm from Yale. It was all these really high prestigious schools. And it came to me and I said, I'm from Oakwood.
Come on, Oakwood.
Come on, OU.
I'm not knocking Oakwood, but it's also not an Ivy League
Yeah,
school. And so it was
yeah.
interesting
They're like, what?
sitting
But you were
there.
here.
But I was there.
But you were
Right.
there.
I was there.
Yes.
And it was interesting because in that moment,
Favor.
I felt somewhat like an imposter. And I was like,
But that's that favor.
it is favor. It is favor.
Yeah.
And I had to self-talk to myself. And I
Right.
self-talked because I still had an individual interview that had to be done.
Yeah.
And so I went into that individual interview, and I felt like God gave me exactly what I need to the point
Yeah.
where they
Yeah.
accepted. I'm going to
Look
say
at
little
that.
old me.
Yeah.
Little old
Look
me.
at that.
Okay.
You belong
Amongst
there.
all of these
Yes.
Yeah.
Ivy League schools. And I
Right.
said, well, look at God. I think that when we have a foundational
Mm-hmm.
construct,
Right.
and
Yeah.
for me, that is God and my faith,
Yeah.
it sometimes enables us, or it oftentimes enables us to be
Ooh,
able
that's
to
good.
push past
Yes.
Mhm.
That confidence.
that imposter. It gives us
Yeah.
a source of confidence. So that's something that I want to encourage
Yeah.
anyone who may be suffering with
Absolutely.
imposter syndrome, me,
Right.
lock into
Yeah.
what kind of grounds you. And for me,
Right.
that's my faith.
Mm-hmm.
And pull from there. And
Yeah.
I think, transformative things happen, when you're
Yeah.
able to do
And
that.
God will open up
Right.
doors that
Girl,
you really
absolutely.
feel
Only
like,
I can open.
okay, God, it was
Yeah.
only you.
It was only you.
So
Right.
that's going to happen when you
it's
feel
so
that way.
true. And we're not going to leave you guys hanging. Of course, as we move forward, we're going to give you those tips on how to lock into that relationship too. Because I do realize dealing with people on the day-to-day
Yeah.
that anchor is somewhat missing.
It's missing.
And so
Yeah.
they look for, okay, how do you hear from God? How do you receive that instruction? How do you, so that you can use that compass?
Yeah.
Because like April said, that has been such a, that relationship is so powerful.
Oh yeah.
It consumes you. It humbles you. It really, directs your path. But if you can look at it in terms of like a relationship where you're giving and you're taking and you're seeing the hand of God move through your life and it doesn't feel like work.
Yeah.
Sometimes it does, you know, but we definitely want to share that with you guys so that you can, build upon that.
Yeah.
Because that's the key. That's the only key,
100%.
honestly.
Yeah.
I would say I've had many bouts of we call it bouts of imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
I remember my first career job. I don't even know if I can call it imposter syndrome. I just think I was an imposter. Because I literally was in charge of I'm in a health system and people are looking to me. Girl, people are looking to me to run things. And I'm not going to lie, I really didn't know what I was doing. So I've had the experience of, okay, I really didn't know what I was doing.
Right.
But then I've also had it where I had some years under my belt and I knew what I was doing, but I still felt like I didn't know what I was doing because the environment was just so new. And I remember saying to myself, okay, after 6 months, I'm going to feel comfortable and not feel like an imposter. And that came and went. And then I was like, okay, after a year, and that came and went. And it took me years to feel comfortable.
Do you feel like you received enough validation from your environments for you to recognize that you were performing
That's a good question.
at a good level?
I feel like I received sufficient validation, but because I was battling my internal perfectionist self, I paid more attention to every little mistake than the things that I did well. So I felt like it was kind of like my own mindset that was holding me back because people around me were telling me that I was doing well. They were singing my praises, but I focused on the things that, just because I was new, that didn't go well. And that's what fed more into me feeling like an imposter. And I kept feeling like, oh my gosh, they're going to find out I'm a fraud. Like,
have you always felt that way? Like when did you
question.
recognize it like in your development that?
I think that's a good question. When did I realize it? I would say probably more so during the career when I after I finished schooling and I started to get into actually working and stuff, because now somebody's paying me to do something, right? This isn't just a volunteer type of opportunity, people are expecting you to perform. And again, going back to that analogy of the resume, it's like, well, you said you did all of this stuff. So
where you at?
Where you at? Are you able to come to it? So I think that's where I experienced it the most. And I'm going to keep it 100. Every new role that I have, I feel a little bit of it, but I have learned to navigate it so that it doesn't paralyze me. Now, there are spaces outside of work where I need to do a little bit better at it, at it, of making sure I don't, get paralyzed. But I've felt it quite a bit over the years.
Right.
No, me too. I think sometimes for me, as a Black woman, just sometimes entering completely white spaces or Caucasian spaces or spaces that are not predominantly me sometimes can give me an interesting sense.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if I call it imposter. Maybe it is a little bit. Let me be real with myself. Maybe
or the
it is
representation.
Yeah, right.
You become like the representative.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, that's it.
For the
race.
For the race.
There's a lot of weights.
A lot of
the
weight.
race, the gender,
A lot of weight.
You know what I mean?
You're right.
The whatever label that you're
100%.
operating in, like you are literally.
No, that's it.
It's a lot of pressure.
Until you feel the need to overperform.
The cleanup woman,
oh my goodness.
the enforcer.
Yeah.
You know how many times in the workspaces I've been called in to be the backup to enforce stuff that is not you're using my energy. You know what I mean? I don't want to be in that disposition right now. It doesn't call for me to be like that. But because your inability or you assume that I need to be like, I don't want to be. I'm actually nice and comfortable and I want to relax. I'm going on break.
Yeah.
I'm going on break. Actually the time that I have, I'll be back. Yeah. But
So
I have a question for you guys. So what were, if you think back to you feeling those thoughts of being an imposter, what were the thoughts or lies going through your mind in that season? What was the inner critic talk that you feel like was coming to mind that you were sort of telling yourself? or
I'm
not telling
qualified.
yourself.
I'm not qualified.
Mm,
I'm not
yeah.
qualified. But that's oftentimes, for me, has been extremely
Mhm.
inaccurate.
Yeah.
But
Right.
it's the feeling
Yeah.
that you feel in the
Yeah.
moment. I'm not qualified.
Mm, that's good. I think if you think about it, that's probably the bottom line of what it boils down to.
But it's also
Right.
failure for
Yeah.
me.
Failure too.
This is on the other
Mhm.
end of the spectrum.
Right.
Mhm.
I don't want to be the face of
Yeah.
failure.
Mm-hmm.
And oftentimes, so far, praise the
Mhm.
Lord, I haven't been.
Right.
But it's still
Yeah.
one of those. But I also have experienced failure. But
Mhm.
in the instances, I think oftentimes you worry that, am I going to be a fraud? And am
Mhm.
I going to fail while feeling like a fraud?
Yeah.
You know, the three of us have careers that have a certain amount of liability
Yeah.
on
Yep.
them,
Mhm.
a responsibility,
Yeah.
not only to yourself, but somebody else, like as far as like delivering on something and being very technical. So
Mhm.
I could definitely understand that because it's like you have been trained to utilize your brain in a certain way to deliver on something. And that is a certain amount of pressure. And back to your question, I don't know if I've necessarily felt like an imposter per se.
Mm-hmm.
I've had the mindset of, okay, I'm gonna deliver the best that I can. I haven't been afraid to like ask for help or like lean on something. There's a certain amount that I won't because I want to do it myself.
Yeah.
But I don't think I've necessarily been a total victim to it, but it has caused me, a level of maybe not putting myself out there as much or like pacing it out, being more strategic on how I,
Mm-hmm.
operate in it, I guess. So I don't really feel
That's good.
like that.
No,
That's good. I'm like, now
You know
I
what
want
I
to
mean?
glean some
No,
of
that's
You
that's
know,
very
that from
good.
you. That's good.
I've kind of been a feeler all my life, like feeling my way through things. And if I don't like how I feel in certain situations or how, I won't expose myself. But I
Yeah.
won't, not
Yeah.
to say that I won't challenge myself, but it's like I'm a little bit more like, strategic when it comes
Yeah.
to that,
Yeah.
with that.
No, that's a blessing.
But I can
Yeah, it is.
definitely see, and we the three of us have come from somewhat sheltered environments
That's
as far
true.
as being in a religious household and then
Right.
going out
Mm-hmm.
and interacting with people
Yeah.
with different belief systems.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm in a career where I have to kind of talk to people to navigate, to have some sort of understanding, like, okay, you believe this way, but this is what's occurring in your life right now. How can I bridge the gap to let you
Right.
see that this is distorted and it's causing,
Mm-hmm.
and then my level of honestly faith comes in where I have to like, okay, a lot of this stuff is spiritual diseases. A lot of these are spiritual, things that I have yet to like explain in a certain way. So, but yeah, I know I'm going off on a tangent, but I just thought that was an interesting, where we are and how we're like being exposed
Yeah.
to the world and different mindsets and how it's making us feel,
Yeah. Huh. So I guess the thing that I would want to know is if I'm suffering from imposter syndrome, which I feel like we've somewhat touched on, what are the things I can pocket to help me overcome imposter syndrome? What can I do to ensure that I'm
Right.
showing up as my best authentic self? As my best authentic self. That's kind of what I want to know. What are the tools? What are the nuggets that we can provide that have worked for us? And I think you just gave one.
Right.
But are there any other additional ones that we can share?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I would say there's a lot that sort of comes to mind, but I'll just kind of start with this. I think for me, there are certain things that I did. So for me, it was more of, okay, I'm feeling like an imposter because I'm weak in this area, right? So I'll say for me, it was more of, for example, I work in the technical field, but I don't have a technical background. So it was like, okay, what can I do to make myself feel more comfortable? Having a technical knowledge and being able to speak that language. And so I did my own like homework and research to try to understand systems and, kind of, be proactive in being able to lead a team of folks who understand it, recognizing that I would not be an expert, but I knew enough to sort of speak the language. So it was more of, kind of growing in that space where I felt the most like an imposter.
Gotcha.
And then, two, it's just, I think for me too, again, there are still places where I feel like an imposter. So recognizing that it's not that big of, it's not a bad thing completely. I think it really is troublesome when it paralyzes you, like you said, April. So it's almost like, okay, I might be feeling like an imposter right now. What can I proactively do from my own studies or research perspective to make myself feel more comfortable in a particular subject or role? And then recognize too, sometimes it just takes experience, you know? I would say that's what really helped me is like over time, I felt more comfortable. I had more experiences to pull from. But again, if I change roles again, I might be feeling that again. So it's like really leaning in, pushing past it, recognizing that I belong here, you know? I bring something meaningful to the table and you can learn from me just like I can learn from you.
Right.
No, that's good.
Isn't it interesting that it's amongst our generation that's like the highest educated? And, no, really, when you think about it, that is feeling that way.
Right.
Yeah.
Whereas we're moving, the generation before were more hands-on careers and things that didn't require the schooling route, and which squeezed them out, you know, and then put us into this now machine where it's like never ending of performing, you know, but yet you're not good enough. But you know, that is so interesting to me. But I believe what we're doing now is developing a level of community, you know, so that you can realize that, you know, there's things to aspire towards, there's certain characteristics and traits that are conducive to where you want to go, and having a certain level of initiative to work on yourself, right? Because I believe that this is a phenomenon amongst like our generation and more particular our population, women and Black women, having like-minded sisterhood or just communities that can continue to push you, but then also things that can pour into you individually so that you realize what it takes for you to perform at a certain level, what is comfortable for you, what is not, you know? And then celebrating your accomplishments. Celebrating you. Celebrate those birthdays. Celebrate those, you know, you going on vacation. Celebrate, you know, gatherings, things like that. Keep you in that mindset of like, life is worth living and joyous, and it's not all work. And, you know, there's a balance. You know, you're not just here to just perform and give. You're here to receive too.
No, and I think that's just it. I think what you guys said hit the nail on the head. We have to identify the triggers. We have to know where they're coming from. We have to accept that I am triggered, and then seek to move differently. And realize that oftentimes you're not alone. A lot of people are feeling imposter syndrome. And sometimes this is being bold and vulnerable. It helps to admit it. Hey guys, I'm feeling away. And sometimes in the honesty and the vulnerability of being honest, you're able to get the affirmation that you actually need to push forward. So there's something to transparency. You guys, we're going to probably have a conversation about transparency and vulnerability because that's big for women.
For everyone.
But just remembering you're not alone. This is not something that happens in a vacuum. Oftentimes, we're triggered by things.
Right.
And it doesn't make us bad. You know?
And I know, like we said, we have a love-hate relationship with social media a lot of the times. But let me tell you, it has helped me as far as gathering and gleaning information, as far as wellness or just tips. Or there's so much information on the internet on how to move forward that's free.
It's true.
You know, you can literally educate yourself on basically almost anything on there. And that's a blessing in our time. So if you just have that motivation, that internal motivation to want to improve and find whatever information and community, you can build your own community online as well. And, you know, baby steps until you get out into the real world, you know, just trying to enhance your experience.
Build upon your experience, but it's like, push past it, do it anyway. Do it, muster up the courage to really tackle it. Again, recognizing your worth. And this is going to sound silly, but I read it in a book or heard it on a podcast somewhere where it's like, when you're feeling like an imposter, kind of stand in the mirror with your like,
Just
top flight security every day, okay?
And start talking to yourself. Almost be your own hype woman. Right? It's like, you did that. You're You're so talented. You're so good. You're going to go in that space. You're going to kill it. Kind of like how we do with each other.
Yeah.
We're like, girl, you got this. Yeah.
Honestly, just to see, plant that little seed with a child and they actually believe. It's the power of belief. And it just continues to magnify. And, you know, some kids have it a little bit too much. Where you're just like,
you're like,
it's not all about you get off this chair and sit down.
Right.
But that balance is a beautiful thing to see unfold.
Yeah. So basically what we're saying is embrace the journey. Give yourself grace.
Give yourself grace. Yeah. Recognize that, you know, feelings of imposter syndrome is probably going to come up periodically. But, you know, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It just says that you're doing probably something new that's giving you a little discomfort. But, you know, you won't always feel that way. Lean into it, but don't allow it to paralyze you.
To paralyze you. That's it.
And you don't have to accept the label also. You know what I mean? Maybe you're experiencing some symptoms of it, but it's not truly who you are. And allow it to like move, you know, because there's a certain amount of time where it's useful and then you give it back. But then, like I said, surround yourself in a beautiful community that can make you feel uplifted and not like you have so much pressure on you to perform, but you also want to motivate you to succeed as well. So.
Yeah.
And they pour into you. I love these girls. These girls, you know what I mean? They give me life sometimes. Thank you. Sometimes when the life's not there. I'm able to get it right from my community. And
immediately. It's like a little battery.
Immediately.
So, well, guys, this has been an amazing time.
Thank you.
Being able to share time and space. And what we
jumped right in.
Yeah, we jump right in. Y'all join us next week. What we want you guys to remember is that empowered women empower women. So make sure you're reaching out, letting someone know how amazing they are. We don't have to cat at each other. We don't have to cheat with each other. We don't have to claw is what I'm trying to say. But we can uplift, and through uplifting, amazing things
can happen.
Yay. All right.
See you next time.
See you next time.
Bye.